We are seeing a big bull market retracement, but there is nothing abnormal about this trend. Every single cycle, we see similar pullbacks that are meant to shake you out of your positions before the major rally up. In this video, I'm going to go over the projects that I think are the best DCAs long-term to win throughout this bull market. I have a few projects isolated, definitely top protocols, as I think money will flow into those first, but we're going to go over the market as a whole, why I don't think the thesis has changed. We have definitely not hit a long-term top, maybe a slight local top over the coming weeks, but I do think we are ripe for upside to finish out the year, and I'll go over exactly why and the coins I'm looking at in this video. Without further ado, let's jump into it.
And we'll keep today's video short and sweet. Just a quick recap on why I think this bull market will continue into Q3, Q4, as well as the coins I'm looking at that are just dirt cheap after this dip. But first and foremost, if you are new to the channel, guys, be sure to drop down below, hit that like button, and subscribe to the channel for more. For every single week here, we have you covered across all the top narratives in crypto to help you win in this bull run. So like and subscribe down below. As well, a big shout out to our sponsors here on In The Game. We have some incredible sponsors from Blowfin, Nexus, as well as 𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪😏 and EverReach Labs. If you need some places to trade, I would highly recommend checking out our premier centralized exchange down below, which is Blowfin, and Nexus, which is our decentralized exchange for the channel. Both have unique offerings, no KYC for either of them, and good bonuses on Blowfin as well down below in the description. Let's just go ahead and dive into it, guys. Obviously, every channel on YouTube is talking about this dip, so that's why I'm saying we're going to keep this video pretty short and sweet and actionable. I have a list of tokens here that I am isolating for immediate upside whenever this market does turn around. And I think we have to start looking at strength. Which coins have been the best performers in the time of upside? Because during this dip, if they've dipped enough, I think it's going to be a really good time to be able to swing trade some of these back to the upside. So just looking at the market right now, I mean, everything's basically getting hit. We can see on the daily charts. Literally, we can just scroll through this entire thing and everything is in the red for the most part. Now, there are a few select coins that are sticking out here in the green, and the one to me that sticks out the most is Wilderworld. Just absolutely crazy numbers for Wilderworld, up 226% over the monthly time frame. I mean, these guys with their 𝗪𝗪𝗏𝗀, with their buybacks, this is showing a new narrative and a new meta potentially for gaming tokens to utilize revenue and come up with some crafty stuff like their 𝗪𝗪𝗏𝗀 skin mechanism, which is kind of like pump fund for in-game skins, which is really unique. But it is nice to see a gaming coin amidst all of this craziness and the dip from 119K all the way to 113 on Bitcoin. We see one of the coins that we've been long-term bulls on still up on the daily, the weekly, and the monthly. Really not a lot of gaming coins can say that. You know, Carrot up, of course, over those 3 time periods. We see Treasure as well, as they did integration this week with Axie Infinity. And then one of my favorite coins in this market, due to their World Liberty Fi connections, is Block, and this one's just absolutely crushing it as well. Otherwise, we are seeing a pretty immense market-wide pullback. But look, I don't think this is anything different than what we saw last cycle or what we've seen over the course of any bull market in crypto. This is just one of those shakeouts where people want you to freak out. We saw the rates stay the same. So the Fed rates were unchanged, and the market just reacted so negatively to that. But I do agree with Wiz of Soho here. I think going into late Q3, Q4, we'll see some of those rate cuts. And I do think that whenever that does happen, we're going to see a pretty good upcharge in the market. We see Coinbase buying $222 million of Bitcoin in Q2 2025. Obviously, SharpLink Gaming buying more and more Ethereum worth $42 million. And look, BlackRock holds $11 billion worth of ETH. Like, I don't think this market is going to crater anytime soon. And I definitely think the extremity of this pullback isn't going to be as severe as what we saw after Trump got into office, whenever the market dipped back into the high 70K levels. That was pretty immense from where we were at prior. So to me, we're not going to get quite to those levels on this pullback, just considering all of the factors. And also, you know, some of the headlines we're seeing: Bitcoin will go up if more people buy and won't if they don't. From Citibank. Like, we're nowhere near the top. These are not frothy headlines. I don't think that we are near the end of the bull market. I think that this cycle we'll be on pace for that November, December timeline for a potential top. And if not, we could have that little bit of an extended cycle. So we have to play our cards every which way. Number one, I have to say, and I say it all the time, just make sure you have a strategy to get involved with Bitcoin. Whether you're accumulating Bitcoin daily, weekly, monthly, or you're buying companies like MicroStrategy or MetaPlanet, be involved with something with Bitcoin, because those are going to absolutely thrive long term with almost very minimal long-term downside. I mean, to me, Bitcoin 500K to $1 million within the next 10 years. I think that that's a very safe bet. And to me, that is something you just 100% want exposure to. So in a market like this, where all of the institutional adoption is going towards assets like Bitcoin, any dip is a gift. And I said this on a video last week. I said, your goal this cycle at the end should be to have accumulated enough to start DCAing into Bitcoin enough to have a single Bitcoin. Only 0.2% of the population will be able to own a Bitcoin. And that is just facts. There's 21 million Bitcoin. That's only 0.2% of the global population. So, and it was like, well, most people don't have that much in crypto, but that's the goal, right? We want to start flipping, some of these X's during the top of the bull run and try to make a strategy to be able to get as much of a Bitcoin as possible. Because I think if you own a Bitcoin, or even potentially just a little bit of a Bitcoin, eventually you could be part of that 1% whenever it is very hard to get your hands on such a scarce asset. But moving on more into the fun things in crypto. So the ones that I am looking at for DCA this week. Number one, by far and away, is SUI. SUI's down 20% on the weekly, and there's absolutely no reason for this. I mean, if this thing continues to go down towards that $3 mark, or even goes below $3, I will be doing a pretty intense DCA here, because, I mean, when we look at this yearly chart, first and foremost, this coin got up to above $5 back in January, and then rallied back up to $4 here, and we were just at that $4 mark last week. So if we go below $3, that is a crazy DCA level. But for such a top protocol, and potentially what people are terming as the next Solana, all of the trends do show that SUI could just be one of the absolute biggest winners of this cycle. This to me is a no-brainer DCA here at $3.33. And I'll tell you, if it goes below $3, I will be digging up some good stable coins to be able to accumulate more of the position in SUI. Number two, and this is one that just hasn't really had its shine this cycle, but I think it will, and that is TON. And I love some of the metrics here. Whenever we see the NFTs, the wallet growth, the Telegram markets, everything of the metric side is bullish for TON, and we haven't really seen it have its explosive run on the charts. So to me, SUI and TON, which is funny because they were both this light blue color, but I do really like both of these at these current levels. When we look at the all chart on TON, I mean, we're over 2x from all-time highs. I think we easily surpass those and more. I think this could be one of the best trades of the cycle, and I agree with Easy's thesis here that he posted on Twitter. So far, we have SUI and TON. I think those are great plays in this current stage of the market. But let's get into one that I know a lot of people have questions on, because the latest epoch did hit on Black Hole, and things have changed a little bit, but I do think AVAX, anything at $20, this is going to be a trade that is going to be one of the biggest catch-up trades of the cycle. With all of the adoption, they're at all-time high TVLs. The inflows are at all-time highs. Everything going on the Avalanche network screams bull market, screams upside. But for right now, the money's just not trickling into the actual token, which is surprising. I mean, the usage, the gas on the chain, we're literally at some of the all-time high transaction points. We see DEX volume over the last 7 days. Black Hole is just absolutely crushing it, doing 215,000 in fees and about $1 billion in DEX volume over the last week. And right now, there is a little bit of a paradigm shift on the platform. Yield percentages are coming back to life. They're, in 200, 300, 400% ranges, which is still amazing, by the way. However, it does seem like the tables are starting to turn towards in favor of people who have locked up black tokens. So next week, I'll come up with an update with exactly how I'm playing these next stages of the platforms, because I've accumulated a great amount of black tokens. But if the pendulum is switching to the people who are backers slash lockers and burners of the Black token, then we want to make sure that we move correctly on that. So next week I'll have a full update on Black Hole, but I do think AVAX at $20. And also I've obviously seen the comments and had a lot of questions seen on Twitter asking, why is Black Hole dipping? Even though it has become the biggest DEX on Avalanche, nothing goes up forever. And also, you have to understand those first initial yields, people were definitely cashing out of that, right? So now that the yields are going down and more people are going to start burning, because if we look at some of this, people making, $500 or, some sort of, this would be right around like $400 on the latest. This was a $567, $350 per voting period on Black Hole. People are going to start moving into burning the token, which makes it more scarce. So as time goes on, this is with every DeFi platform, yields will decay. But what you can do is adjust that strategy with some of those emissions. And I do think eventually the Black tokenomics are very ripe for upside. So I would not be concerned with this dip. It is still well above launch price. It's well above the price that we gave you guys here at 40 cents. I mean, this is going to be a long-term winner, and I have absolutely no doubt about that. So I love AVAX and Black Hole at these levels. Of course, another one that you have to take advantage of every dip this cycle, it's Hyperliquid. I mean, you see the price action on Hyperliquid. We got almost up to $50, and now we're up at $36.90. Every major dip on this chart has been nothing but a golden opportunity. And yes, this last week, Hyperliquid, they did go down, had outages twice, which is not ideal. Okay, we understand that. But Solana has had intense outages over its whole lifetime, and it still has done the numbers that it is doing. And look, Hyperliquid is, like I said on my latest short form, by the way, if you're not checking out the short form content on the channel, we have tons of shorts posting on this channel and over on Instagram. I think you can find those links down below in the description. But every dip for this coin has been a golden opportunity. This is the DEX of the cycle. This is the people's DEX as well, as they are buying back the token every single day. How can you fade a project that's doing $4 million in revenue every day and then taking a percentage of it and literally buying back the token? That is the best proposition in crypto. And that's exactly why projects like Wilderworld are absolutely crushing it right now, because they have this buyback narrative. So with all these new mechanisms going on in their ecosystem, Wild is saying, look, now that we're going to have revenue churning mechanisms, we're going to start buying back the token. And this monthly chart is showing you that the market is moving towards that. So I love Hyperliquid at these levels, which moves me into two other revenue slash just, I think, huge plays coming up this cycle. Number one being Blockstreet. I've got some really good alpha behind the scenes on this one of how integrated this is going to be. So the pair is paired up with USD1, which is World Liberty Fi's stablecoin, which is Donald Trump's crypto entity's stablecoin. This is going to be very deeply integrated in the WLFI ecosystem, and I think that this one probably runs up towards $1 billion fully diluted market cap. That's a 5x from current prices. I really do think that we hit those levels this cycle. So that's number one. But also, everyone's focused on Bonk because of the revenue they're making, when in reality, I think GP, this dip right here, is the biggest take advantage of dip in all of crypto. It's down 50% over the week. Meanwhile, they're doing hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars of buybacks every single week. This chart is getting hit way too hard, in my opinion. Bonk is ruling the market, and Graphite is the provider of their technology. If we just look at the weekly chart, this thing was up at $7. There is zero reason this should be $3. Just the fact that it ran so hard, it's taking a sell-off. People are taking profits. I do still think GP is going to be a major runner whenever the market does turn around, and it does have that big aspect of buybacks, and they're making revenue, which has been one of the strongest plays in the entire market. If you want to dip on a strong coin on Solana, I'm watching GP. If this goes any lower than this, I'll definitely start taking some major stabs at a DCA. And then just looking across the board here, I like Kaspa at its current prices. We were buying Kaspa, a while ago at a little bit higher than this, but at 8 cents, I think Kaspa is vastly undervalued. Scrolling down into the gaming coin section, I mean, Superverse at 66 cents with the fact that they have buybacks on the way, I think is still strong. I think 𝗏𝗃 under $1 is a great proposition. I know Aether has some big plans coming up. It's not one that we've been actively buying. I did pre-sale invest in this over a year ago, but I do think finally Aether is at a point for upside in their token. So that's one I definitely have my eyes on. And also from a smaller market cap perspective, I'm looking at 𝗪𝗏 at 37 cents, down 32% over the course of the weekly. Polis with the Star Atlas summer event going on. And then moving down the ladder here, you guys know I love Neural AI, I love Tau, and I love GPU in the AI space. And then last but not least, I'm looking at 𝗥𝗏𝗃𝗥 here, which is not really taking a big hit. I think 𝗥𝗏𝗃𝗥 is definitely one of the strongest buys in the gaming sector currently. And also, look, we always talk about this. In the times of market turmoil, there's always opportunity, okay? And we're not just talking about having to go buy more coins. If you are exhausted, okay, like you don't have stable coins, you don't want to on-ramp more liquidity, I understand that. Like sometimes it happens to everybody where you don't have liquidity to onboard anymore. You just have to sit in your positions and let the thesis play out. That is perfectly fine. But right now, for the people who have followed this channel for a while, there's a few things you can go do. Number one, go check out your points for Meteora's LP stimulus plan. I think this is going to be a pretty big airdrop. Meteora and Jupiter have made tons of money off of this platform, and I think they are definitely going to incentivize users. As you see here, I have about 46 million points accrued for this stimulus plan over the first couple waves, and a lot of this came from LPing meme coins earlier this year, notably the video we did about Trump coins. So I'm really excited to see how this plays out. If you have done any Meteora liquidity pools, I'd go look at your allocation here. And I think, you know, this is going to be a pretty good airdrop. And also we talk about Abstract a lot, and they're hyping up that it is Abstract August. There's a new product out there, the Proof of Play Arcade, where this is Pirate Nation's Abstract game edition, basically. And Pirate Nation is one of the top gaming projects in all of crypto. I think the Abstract airdrop is going to be worth a ton for users who have been farming XP. So in this market, if you don't have a lot of liquidity, there's more things you can do than just figuring out how to scrape more into crypto and DCA. So whether you're looking to DCA, we just gave you a large list of coins that I am looking at for upside when the market turns around. However, you can just go farm these things like Abstract. Go check out your LP stimulus points for season 1 on Meteora. Future gains are just as important as what you do now, and also utilizing your time. There's no reason to just stare at the charts in a choppy market, or you're trying to long every dip and it just keeps dipping, right? Just prepare for the future. I think that going into late Q3 and Q4, we're going to see crazy upside as we did last cycle in the 4-year cycle, and we may even see that extended cycle. But I do think right now this is a gift, this dip we are being given, because you can accumulate more. I do not think that this is the end of the bull market. So guys, like the video down below and subscribe to the channel for more. I'll be back next week with more content. As always, like, subscribe, play well, my friends, trade responsibly, and please stay bullish, my friends.